So if you find this sleep story helpful or interesting, then give it a thumbs up, leave any comments that you've got below, and if you aren't already, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you can receive notifications of when future sleep stories go live. I have dozens and dozens of stories already on my channel that you can go and search. I also release new stories every single week, so I hope you enjoy this story. So just take a moment to allow your eyes to close and allow yourself to begin to relax. And as you begin to relax and begin to drift comfortably asleep, I'm just going to tell this sleep meditation in the background. And while I tell this sleep meditation, I don't know whether you'll drift deeper asleep to the sound of my voice or the spaces between my words. But as you drift comfortably asleep, you can have a sense of arriving at a spa. And this is a spa day that you'd booked a long time ago. And in the run-up to this day, you've been working really hard. And what's got you through each day of work has been thinking about that day that you've booked in the future. Working all day, heading home from work, thinking how many days are left before your spa break, and then working another day and another day. And now eventually that day has arrived. And you arrive at the spa. And there are many rooms in this spa. And there's a lot of other bits and pieces to it as well. And you've got the whole day here. And so you know you can take your time to relax your way around the spa. And so you get yourself a towel. You head through to the changing rooms. You change in the changing rooms. Head through a door. And can feel that warm breeze passing through that door as you open it. And notice the water vapour in the air. Notice the water on glass and the drops on the glass and the way the light catches those drops as they get heavier and heavier, and then find their route down the glass, almost like drops racing each other down the glass. And you walk through to the first room, and as you walk in, you notice that it's a dark room with dark tiles around the walls, the ceiling. And this room's only illuminated by some candles. And there's relaxing music playing in this room. And from time to time you hear the sound of a diffuser. And then smell the smells of the essential oils. Getting a waft of lavender as you walk to one of the dark spa beds to lie on. And you notice that it's made almost out of the same tiles as the room, and those tiles are warm to the touch. And you rest your towel over the tiles and you lie down. Notice the way that curves to fit your back, your legs. And as you lie there, breathing in that lavender smell, breathing out any tension and stress, you notice that there's a projector projecting an image of stars, the occasional shooting star, on the wall and ceiling of this room, just moving gently across the wall and ceiling, noticing the projection of nebula passing by. And as you continue to take deep, comfortable breaths, so you let your eyes close and you allow yourself to begin to relax to that smell of the lavender. And while you relax on that warm bed, listening to that music, so that relaxation spreads through your head, down your shoulders, through your body, all the way down to your feet. And you notice your mind drifting and wandering, as if you're discovering yourself walking through a field of lavender, running your hands through that lavender as you walk, letting that lavender pass through your fingertips, tickling through the inside of your fingers, smelling that lavender around you, noticing the waving purple as you gaze around and the breeze blows across the field, and the contrast with the blue sky and distant hills and the sounds around you out here in a field, sounds of birds, of nature, and having a sense of the sun passing across the sky as you continue across that field, and the sun setting and stars appearing in the sky, almost like the experience you're having in this room is becoming translated by your dreaming brain to create a representation of the experience, of the smell, of those stars passing overhead, of the feeling of that warm breeze that you experienced on entering the spa. And after a while of drifting deeper and more relaxed into the experience, you decide that it's time to move on to the next room. You're here for the day, and so you want to be able to work your way around the different rooms, work your way around the different things that this spa has to offer. And so you open your eyes, climb down off that bed, picking up your towel, leaving that room, noticing a slight coolness as you walk out of that room. And you head to the next door. and you walk in this next door, and you discover yourself in a room with padded walls, a padded ceiling, that's light and airy, that feels much cooler than the last room. And standing in the middle of this room are 3 wide, tall tubes. And you can see water filling those tubes, bubbles rising up those tubes, colours dancing in the water, and those colours dancing and refracting through that water. And then shining onto the walls, creating dancing wave patterns on the walls. And you sit down on the comfy chair, resting your back against those soft walls, and you watch those bubbles rising in those cylinders, and you notice the way the water overflows the top of the cylinders, the way it flows down the outsides into a little pool of water, like a little pond at the foot of those cylinders. And the sound of that running water, the sound of it bubbling and sploshing. And then you relax back into this soft chair. You feel the cool breeze in this room on your face. And you notice the difference between this room and the last. That this room is much lighter, almost white, compared to the last room that was dark. And there's no spotlight in this room. There's just a general light that illuminates from all directions. Almost like this room is full of daylight. And you relax back and close your eyes. And you take some deep breaths as you listen to the sound of that water. And you notice as you take those deep breaths that in this room is the smell of cut grass. And as you breathe in that smell of freshly mowed grass, your mind starts to wander to pleasant summer days, to the sounds of lawnmowers in the distance, that smell of cut grass surrounding you, of walking a dog, throwing a ball, watching your dog chase after that ball and excitedly jump up as it bounces, catching that ball, excitedly spinning around and then running back, wrestling you for a moment when you try to take the ball from it, before putting that ball down by your feet, stepping back a little bit, bowing its head, as if to look at the ball, lowering its front legs, and then looking back up at you. And you reach down and pick up that ball, and you can see the way the dog's eyes are watching the ball as you pull it back, and pretend to throw it and watch the dog run for a little bit before suddenly stopping, realizing that there's no ball there, and then turning back to you and seeing you still have the ball. And then you throw the ball and the dog bounds after it, grabs that ball and comes back. And the whole time you're walking through this area, smelling that cut grass, feeling the warmth of the sun, hearing the sounds of summer birds, seeing others walking their dogs, people out jogging, people out walking, some people playing. Just having relaxing memories of summer days coming to mind. And then after a while, you just have that sense that the right amount of time has passed, that it's time to move on to the next room. And so you head back out of the door. And you start walking toward the next door. And you see some people laughing, and you gaze over towards them. And you see them sitting on a stool with their feet in tanks of fish. And you see those fish nibbling around their toes, nibbling between their toes. And you see them giggling and laughing as they look down at their feet, feeling that tickling of the fish. And you wonder whether that's something that you'll try if you have time before you leave the spa. But you want to make sure you give time to going through all the rooms and all that this spa has to offer. And you open the next door and notice that in this room it's really cold. And you decide that you don't know how long you'll spend in this room. You realise that the room seems to be full of artificial snow. And you've just walked barefoot into this room, into this snow. And you're here for the spa experience. So you decide you'll give it a bit of a try. And just see what it's like in this room. And like the other rooms, there's some relaxing sounds playing. The lighting is just right to go with the snow. And part of the sounds is a slight sound of wind, almost like the kind of wind you would get on a cold day. A brisk, cold wind. And the sound of the wind almost sends shivers through your body, as if you can almost feel it just from the sound. And you touch that snow with your hands, and you hear the sound of the crackling snow under your feet as it crunches and cracks. And you find yourself making snowballs just because you can. Almost like something childlike occurs inside you, that although you're cold, something about the fact that you've been really warm from the previous rooms and from the space outside this room makes it so the cold has a certain comfort to it. But you know that if you stay in here too long, then it'll get uncomfortable. But you feel this almost childlike desire to make some snowballs, to build a tiny little snow person up on one of the seats, and then put a little smiley face on that snow person, wondering if it will make anyone else smile when they walk in here and see it sitting there on a seat. And you put the towel down on a seat. You sit down on that towel, and you can feel the coolness of the air, the cold snow beneath your feet. And you let your eyes close for a short time as you begin to relax your breathing, which in turn reduces the shivering and helps you feel more comfortable. And you notice that something about this cold seems to work just right for reducing aches and pains, almost like the cold is passing in through your feet, around your body, softening and numbing any discomfort through the body. And you feel yourself breathing deeply and comfortably, and you can breathe deeper and even more comfortable. Noticing yourself breathing in that way, helping you relax even deeper, and helping you to get used to being able to be in an uncomfortable position for a while without it feeling uncomfortable. As if this room is teaching you even more than just being a spa day that can bring you comfort and relaxation. And while your eyes are closed and you're drifting and relaxing, your mind begins to wander. And it begins to wander to the sound of walking through snow, walking through a pine forest, smelling that pine smell that's in this room, and having that transform into the smell of a pine forest in your mind. And as you walk through this pine forest, so you can hear and feel each footstep you take. You can hear the sound of a woodpecker in a tree, curious as to why it's out pecking away at this time of year. But finding something relaxing and comforting about knowing that there's a woodpecker there. And then being surprised to discover what looks like a giant tree in the middle of this pine forest. And you run your hand around the bark of that tree. You gaze up, noticing how tall it is compared to the trees around it. And as you walk around that tree, so you notice a hole in the back of the tree. And you duck down and walk into that hole. And the sound of the wind dies down. The sounds outside die down. And you turn on a torch. And notice this is almost like a small cave inside this tree. The perfect size to relax in, to be out of the harsh weather outside of here. And so you head away from the entrance and relax down in a corner. just gazing over towards that entrance, seeing the snow out there, aware of the cold wind blowing out there, while you relax here. And as you relax here, so you have this sense of your eyes closing, taking a moment in this place to relax. And because of where you are, you have this sense of walking through a very similar place, but on a warm summer's day. And instead of finding a giant tree in the middle of this place, you find a giant gingerbread house, one that's large enough to live in. And with the smell of that ginger, so you approach the house. You knock on the door, but accidentally break the ginger door. And out of curiosity, you decide to see if this house is edible. So you pick up the bit of door that broke off. You break a small bit of it off and eat it, and realize that this house is an edible gingerbread house. And you notice that the white decoration around the windows also snaps off and seems to be almost like sugar icing. And you walk into the house and find that there seems to be no one home. And then you hear a noise coming from upstairs. And it's only a faint noise, but it sounds like someone saying "who?" And you think it's someone asking who's in the house. They just seem to be saying "who?" So you start heading quietly up those stairs, and cautiously, worried at any moment you might fall through the gingerbread. And upstairs, you see the most majestic looking owl. Perched on top of a gingerbread fireplace, eating a little gingerbread mouse. And you know this mouse isn't real, it's just gingerbread. And you realise whoever built this gingerbread house had made a gingerbread mouse. And there are many more gingerbread mice in a basket by the gingerbread bed. And you walked over to that owl, and the owl was making that sound that you thought was "who?" And the owl turns to look at you, and you reach out, and it doesn't flinch. And so you gently stroke that owl, and you stroke behind the owl's ear, and the owl tilts its head, almost tilting its head into the stroking. And you stroke the owl's back, and it almost seems to arch itself into the stroke on its back. And then you continue to explore. And as you go to head downstairs, so that owl flies over, and you barely notice it. You catch a slight glimpse of it out of the corner of your eye before you hear it, as it lands on your shoulder. And so you walk downstairs, and you walk out of this house. And the owl flies off ahead of you. And you try and follow that owl. But as you do, you find yourself back inside that giant tree. And then you find yourself drifting back to that cold room. And you realize it's time to move on from this room. And so you stand up. You notice your feet have become quite numb. And you know that if there was any discomfort there, that discomfort is gone now. And you know that that will probably last, even when those feet go back to feeling like normal. And so you walk out of this room. And you walk on to the next door. And as you walk through the door, so you see the most beautiful Zen Garden. And there's music playing in this room. With the sound of a gong, a sound of something being struck and then ringing out. And sounds of pipes. And just sounds that, just from walking in here, your mind begins to wander. And you begin to fall into sync with the music, finding yourself walking slowly around the outside of a large area of well-manicured sand. And as you walk round, you find your way to a rake, and you see what you're supposed to do. And you allow all of your focus to be on that rake as you slowly and carefully rake a straight path, raking straight lines, and then alongside that, repeating this. And if the lines go over the lines of the one that you've already raked, you start again. And each time you restart, so you allow your focus to be drawn even more into the experience, aware that the times you make mistakes, when your focus lapsed for a moment, perhaps with a distraction, maybe a thought, and so you keep doing this until you're able to rake each set of lines alongside each other set of lines without any mistakes. And then once you've raked the Zen Garden, you sit down in a meditative position on a towel on a stone, listening to the sounds, breathing the smell of jasmine deeply and comfortably, and just allowing your mind to wander to the peace of this place. And as your mind wanders, so you start to have this sense of sitting on the porch of a home overlooking fields, sitting in a rocking chair and just gently rocking backwards and forwards on that porch. Sounds of a wind chime hanging from the top of the porch, gazing out towards fields of cows and sheep, distant hills, and just relaxing and watching the world go by here. Then after a while, standing up from that rocking chair, walking down from the porch, heading round to the front of the porch, climbing onto your horse, just giving that horse a gentle nudge in the sides as it starts walking and then trotting across the land, from one field through the next and the next, up a hill and then down a hill, all the way to a river winding and weaving among these hills, and then stopping that horse at the river, dismounting, and just walking along that river a little bit, walking up towards the hills to where the river has a small area of rapids, of small waterfalls that weave their way around rocks in the river. And you set up a small little camp just here by the river, with the sound of that water running, that waterfall sound, the slight spray in the air, the smell of that water, sitting down on the grass with a campfire, the sound of the crackling campfire, the sight of the flames dancing, and having yourself something to eat while you enjoy being here out in nature. Where there's no one else around, just you and your horse. Just relaxing here. The horse has its head down, just eating some grass. You can feel the breeze on your face. And after having something to eat, you take your shoes and socks off, and you walk just into the shallows of this river, feeling that refreshing coolness of the water around your ankles, your feet, and that tickling of that water as it bubbles past, and the sound of just wading lightly in this water here. And getting some water onto your hands and splashing a bit onto your face. Feeling that refreshing water, smelling that refreshing water. Being able to breathe in this fresh air out here in the middle of nowhere. Before getting back onto the horse, making your journey back to that porch, sitting back down in that rocking chair, rocking backwards and forwards and relaxing, and finding yourself back, meditating in that Zen garden, knowing it's time to move on from this area. And as you leave this area, so you enter the next door. And in this door you just see a jacuzzi in the middle of the room. And there's no one else in this room. And so you go and climb into the jacuzzi. You press the button to turn it on. And you relax yourself down, sitting with just your head above the water and your back against the side. And you can feel that bubbling water under your chin, around your neck, vibrating and massaging around your body, your arms, tickling around your fingers, the palms of your hands, tickling your toes and your feet, and those bubbles massaging your legs. And you let your eyes close as you relax there. And as you relax, you notice that your body wants to begin to float. So you lift your arms out of the water, rest them on the side. And with your head and shoulders and arms out the water, so you let your body relax and begin to float on that cushion of watery air, floating and relaxing up toward the surface, with your legs just hanging loose and limp out in front of you, and that almost numbing, tickling, bubbling around you, almost pulsating with bubbles across your whole body. Almost like it's sending mini vibrations through your body, your legs, your feet, tickling around the base of your feet. And the occasional splash into your face as the bubbles burst at the surface. And as you relax there, so your mind begins to wander. You have a sense that this is a bit like relaxing, resting on an ocean, being at a beach, lying on your back, gazing up at the sky, watching birds overhead, hearing the sound of the water lapping on the shore, waves breaking, waves lifting you up and lowering you down as they pass by. That bubbling sound of the water in your ears. And that sensation of being able to almost turn over, put a snorkel mask on, and lower your head just under the water, where you can be floating on the water, gazing down underwater, breathing deeply and comfortably through the snorkel, and seeing the fish swimming around on the bottom, seeing the movement of seaweed and underwater plant life as the pressure of the waves passes in towards the shore and then back out again. And then, after a short period of time, you have this sensation of those bubbles calming down, your body relaxing down under the water again, no longer propped up on that cushion of watery air. And your eyes open and you leave the jacuzzi. And you head through the next door to the next room. And as you walk into this room, so you notice the wooden walls. Notice what's almost like a thick cloud in here. And you instantly get hit by the heat of this room. And you spend just a short period of time in here, thinking how this must be what it would be like to be in a rainforest, in the highly humid heat. And after that room, you head into another similar room, a room that has the same kind of temperature, but this time no humidity. And without the humidity, you have a sense of this being almost like you imagine a desert would be. Imagining a vast, empty space. We just have a sense of peace, of wonder. And after that room, you head to the final area around the outside of this spa. It's some steps down into a pool of water, and you descend those steps, and it's a calm, warm, comfortable pool of water, almost like walking into the most comfortable bath. And you walk down those steps into that water. You lower yourself gently down into the water so that just your head is above the surface. And then you gently swim in that water. And you see that there's a plastic curtain where the other side of that curtain is outside the spa, where this pool continues outside the spa. And you swim towards that curtain, and you swim through the curtain, coming out in the outside part of this pool. And you can see the snow of winter that's out here, while feeling that incredible warmth of this pool. You can feel the tickling of snowflakes as they land on your hair, And you rise yourself out of the water slightly, and you can feel that cool air. And you let the snowflakes land on your head, on your shoulders, on your arms. And at first, they just disappear as soon as they touch your skin. But then after a little while they start to settle, and you let little mounds of snow build up on your arms, down to your hands, before just lowering yourself gently down under the water, feeling that comfort of being back in that warmth, and then rising yourself out of the water again, letting that snow rest on your arms again, and then lowering yourself back down into the water. And you find yourself a corner in this pool, and you relax back in that corner, resting yourself against the edge of the pool, seeing the water vapour rising up from the pool, from that hot water into the cold air. And you gaze over through the pine forests that surround this spa. You can see the distant mountains beyond the pine forest. And you have this sense of your eyes relaxing shut while you rest on this water, feeling the warmth of your body, the coolness of the breeze on your face. And with your eyes closed, you have this sense of what it'd be like to be in a hot air balloon, rising up from near the spa. The sound of the flame making that balloon rise higher and higher, and then the silence as it just drifts and floats in the sky. And being able to get that better view over to the mountains. And a sense of the peace of just floating in a basket under a hot air balloon, drifting with the wind wherever the wind takes you. And then catching a glint of something over in those caves. And having this sense like somehow you've leapt out of the hot air balloon and turned into that owl, and almost silently flying your way towards that glinting, glistening in the mountain. And as you near that location, you notice that it looks like an entrance to a cave, and that something inside the cave is glistening and glinting, like something must be illuminating whatever it is inside that cave. And as you come into land as that owl, and you tuck your wings out and then back, you find yourself landing as a person and walking into that cave, as if a warm glow is emanating from your body that's illuminating your path through the cave. And as you walk in, you notice that this seems to be some kind of a crystal cave, that's got the most beautiful crystals around the ceiling, the walls, the back of the cave. That the slightest bit of light just glistens and gleams around the cave. And you walk deeper and deeper into the cave, where you see a pool of water and a fountain. And in that pool of water is what looks like thousands of gold coins. And you reach in and have that splush of your hand diving down into the water. You pick up a handful of those gold coins, lift them out of the water as that water runs through your fingers. And some of those coins run through your fingers and splosh back into the water. And you notice that in that water seems to be a spinning light, like a crystal that's somehow spinning with a certain regularity, with a light that's pulsing. And you take a closer look, and you reach down and you reach toward that spinning crystal. And you realize that it seems to be almost like that crystal is somehow magnetic, but it's somehow fitted into a system where there's a magnet beneath it, and both magnets are repelling. And something about this water and the temperature difference between the different parts of the water with the fountain is enough to influence the movement of that crystal. And as that crystal moves, so it seems to generate a little bit of electricity within that magnetic field that creates this glow that's enough to illuminate this cave, to create sparkling, glistening light. And you head out of this cave in this mountain top. You leap off the mountain and instantly find yourself turned back into an owl. And as you fly silently, you can see yourself resting there in that spa, relaxing so peacefully and so deeply. And as an owl you fly down towards yourself, and just as you're about to land in the water, so your eyes open and you find that you're resting in the water. And you work your way back out, back through that plastic entrance, back into the spa. You decide not to give the fish tank a go. You look and see if there's anything else you've missed. You see that there's an area that seems to have toads and turtles and different other creatures. It seems to be just a relaxing area to sit and watch. And you notice that there's a cafe the other side of that. And that must be the area for people to sit in a cafe and have something relaxing to look at. You go back to the changing rooms, feeling so relaxed. It's almost an effort to get dressed again. Like all you want to do is just relax even deeper You grab yourself a bite to eat from the cafe before leaving this spa, holding on to that relaxation, holding on to your learnings from this day, looking forward to visiting again, feeling almost like you've just been a caterpillar, and that going home, having a good night's sleep, will help you to emerge in the morning as a butterfly. You make your journey home and find that night, when you go to bed, you already feel so incredibly relaxed. It's almost effortless to just drift asleep, and you sleep so soundly through the night, having the most incredible, pleasant dreams, knowing that you're doing a lot of positive inner work as you sleep, and that in the morning you're going to wake up feeling so refreshed, revitalized, and that as long as you keep this spa trip in your mind, you'll be able to keep hold of that relaxation from the spa each and every day, helping you relax deeper, helping you handle stress well, helping anxiety fade away, and relaxation and comfort begin to help your decision making and help in many unexpected ways. And while drifting asleep, a smile can come to your face as those pleasant thoughts come to mind, relaxing, sleeping through the night.